Hey, we're joined by Fatum, Daniel here from the group in downtown Ottawa just before Escapade. There's a couple of you here. You're doing the interview, but you've got one of your partners in crime doing some production. You're looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to tomorrow. Thanks for having us. Yeah, Bruce is upstairs finishing off a track that we needed to get completed before the gig, but we are super excited about playing. I think this is the first festival for Fatum in general, and we're doing it in June Beat stage, so having the label support, it seems to be lining up in order.
Have you played in Canada or traveled before in Canada?
Yeah, our first time in Canada was actually only 5 weeks ago, a month and a half ago. We played in Vancouver, which was phenomenal. It was an amazing crowd, and the promoters were fantastic. And for Fatum, and for me as personally, it was my first time. Bruce has been all over Canada as Norn and Rad and doing this Battle Royale stuff. But as Fatum, it was our first gig and my first gig personally, and it's such a beautiful country. I live in Minnesota though, so it doesn't really change in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of looking outside and seeing all the greenery, but the people here are just fanatics and phenomenal about the music, and it's so much easier to play in front of those types of crowds.
Can you tell us how you got together with the rest of the crew? Was it very organic, or is it something that, oh, hey, you know what, I know him, and maybe we should chat and sit down and talk to management, or was it sort of a more personal connection?
Yeah, the story of Fatum, the reason why we came up with the word Fatum, I believe it's Greek for fate. And what happened was Bill and Chad, they decided to come together. They naturally met via, I believe it was an aquatic interaction. Bill also specializes in aquatic home, what do you call those, fish tanks. And he met Chad, and they listened to music together, and they said, hey, we should start a group. And because of Bill, I was introduced to the group early on, and because of me, I introduced Bruce to the group early on. And at first, Bruce and I were very kind of, more on the back burner, because we were offered to be a part of it right away as the face, but we decided that we wanted to see it through early because of Bruce's Battle Royale and my Judah, other pseudonyms that we were working under. And once we decided to get some music under our belt and working together, once we all got in the studio, it came very organically, and we decided, hey, let's go ahead and jump on this. Let's make it official. And that was around the time that we got the Grammy nomination. And since then, it's just been, we have a system where everyone is just really, really doing the best that they can. We have a perfect team of, the strategic placements of, Bill doing a lot of networking, Chad doing a lot of the management, Bruce and I doing a lot of the gigging and touring and music. And then, Bill and Chad both have a plethora of a history in the music industry. Bill's already been Grammy nominated, and Chad has been working with Grammy nominated musicians all his life. So it's been it worked out very organically.
Do you find it challenging to get together, or do you have some sort of routine or expectation of, okay, every month and a bit we're all gonna go bunker down into some house and really work on some music?
Yeah, the challenge is it's hard for us to get together, but we have learned to create a schedule for it with anybody, and anything can happen. In some other singles, we kind of set an allotment of time of a week or 2 weeks, and we go through tracks really quickly. So a lot of our bigger tracks usually happen when we're all together in the studio. Sometimes we have to work remotely with some things that, some deadlines of remixes and stuff, in which Bruce and I and Bill and Chad will all send the projects around to each other. The majority of those types of projects run through Bruce. He's a phenomenal producer. We all will be able to give him that kind of praise. He's a savant in that area. But we definitely do share in the glory of bringing all the creative inputs together at the same time. It's just hard to do it. It's hard to do it all together when people live in we have Bill and Chad living in Orlando, and then Bruce in LA, and then me in Minneapolis. So, but when we do get together, it definitely magic happens.
You have a new single on the way out in a little bit. Can you tell us how that came together and what you're expecting from it?
Yeah, the new single is called On My Own, and it's featuring Angel Taylor. It's our first big vocal single. I believe it's our very first vocal single that we've ever done. That's not a remix. And I reached out to Angel because I fell in love with her voice from Artie's Up All Night, and I listened to a couple of other things that she did with Danik, and I reached out to her, and we just clicked right away. We met in Amsterdam. She's been working with Armin and a lot of the Armada guys, and when we met in Amsterdam, it was just like magic. The music that we made and that we worked on together, it just came very organically and naturally. So what I did is we wrote some music, sent her a piece, and she is by far one of the best, I believe, pop writers that is out there right now. She's worked on Bieber's, she's been on The Voice. She has a lot of different angles that she can approach, and the way that I write music personally, and I like to write a lot of the melodic content. It's very dark and it's very sad, and she knows how to connect with that, and we brought that out. And so with this even though this is a very happy sounding song, much like Up All Night, it's actually kind of got a, I guess, melancholic undertones to it in terms of the way that we had it come about.
Does producing for a vocal or trying to match a singer change the way the organic construction of the song actually is, and compared to, say, if you're doing an instrumental?
Yeah, 100%. What we like to do is we like to create a backbone or a bed. We call it a musical bed or a foundation, whatever term you like to use. And we send it to a vocalist. And what the vocalist does with that determines what we do with the song. We actually have 3 different songs from her that we've just recently written together. So with On My Own, it worked out so easily that we just decided to go again. I kept sending her musical beds, and she kept firing them away. And so we've got 3 on the way. But for On My Own being the first single, I think everyone's going to see, it's going to come out on Our Mind, which is Armin's label, and pretty much everyone's going to see how musically talented she is. And she's just phenomenal in the way that she writes, and the way that she not just only writes melodic content in terms of top lines, but the way that she writes lyrics and how they can touch other people. So once we hear the vocal, we then go ahead and decide what we're going to do with the track. And with this one, we want it to be a big summer banger, and it turns out that it hopefully will end up being one.
Have you always been into progressive and trance, or have there been other loves for styles or genres? And how would you say compare those two?
Personally, me, I come from a background of more of the darker, progressive, techno-y side of things, and Bruce comes from more of a trance-oriented, but also, especially with Battle Royale, you got dance hall and all these different types of genres that he's working with, especially in the pop mainstream scene. And so when you put us together, it kind of breathes this innovative quality of music that not a lot of people are having, because we're kind of exposed to so many different styles. More for me personally, and for the Judas side, we're big fans of the darker Eric Prydz, Cyrus D, Jeremy O'Landers, and then you have people like Bruce who are extremely influenced by Major Lazer and Diplo and Skrillex and all Gray and all these different types of weird, glitchy, awesome things that most people don't get to hear in the trance community. So when we put that together under the foundation and under the, I would guess, the templated understanding of what trance is and how it's built, I think we get to be able to bring out a lot of cool different ideas. And I think a lot of people have seen that, and not only that it's innovative, but that it's fresh and that it's new. And it's because we're trying to expose the trance community to something that they're not really have been exposed to before.
If you could switch yourself with someone else and they join the group for a song, so you're stepping out, someone else is coming in, who would you want to see take your spot to see something different within the group happen?
I would have to say that the best fit for us would be, for me, I would put it in Eric Prydz. I think that would just be the greatest. He's the king. I consider him the king. I think everyone knows that if they've seen any interviews that I've done. But for the group per se, personally, I think that if you brought Andrew Bayer back in and had Bruce and Andrew instead of me working with Bruce and Andrew, I think that would be one of the coolest fits, because it brings this nostalgia of what Norman and Rad did with Artificial and him, and the camaraderie that they both have. It's just, I've never met a couple of producers that are insanely talented. I view myself as being a well-talented, well-rounded producer, but when you work with the highest level, which I believe that I have with Bruce and Andrew, you just can't beat it. And so magic happens that way.
So of the other 3, because they're not here, tell me what either you like or you don't like about them.
Okay, we'll start with Chad. He is like the Steve Jobs of the group. He is the visionary. He sees, he understands, he gets what it takes in order to make a business thrive. And we don't necessarily see this music venture as not only a business, we see this as a team. And when you get someone who has exceptional leadership skills, and you put that together with exceptional talent, that's when a lot of magic happens. And there's not much I can say bad about Chad. Bill as well. He is, I mean, he's so well connected and so knowledgeable. He's been doing this for over 25 years. Got a Grammy nomination for Seal. He's remixed Rihanna. He's been on the Grammy panel. He knows all the different Grammy guys. He's best friends with Cascade and all these guys. I mean, he's basically done what all these EDM people have tried to do back in the 90s. And because of that knowledge as well, he helps lead in the studio and outside the studio as well, and he's invaluable. Bruce, I've never met someone who gets production as quickly as he does. He understands the fundamentals of getting a sound to sound different and to make it sound better. And there's not many people who can take. I mean, this guy has taken for Bad Royale, taking fart noises recorded on an iPhone and turned them into leads. And I know that sounds vulgar, but it just shows the diversity of what he can do in his own head in creating sound in the sound spectrum and then putting that to use. And I've never met someone who is as wonderfully talented as him. Downsides of all of them, I mean, we're all guys and we all have opinions, and those opinions flare up. And in any team, you know, you sharpen each other by conflicting, and we all have a little bit of that, but mostly due to the fact that we don't see each other a lot, which is probably a blessing sometimes. We work very well together. It's just a lot of emailing back and forth, and then, you know, you start bringing out what's best from the team. And hopefully, with my part in this and as being kind of like the glue in between all of this, you know, I have a huge hand in every single side of this group. I do my best to bring out what's best of all of those people, which I just mentioned.
If you weren't doing this yourself, do you have something you think you'd find yourself into?
I would probably maybe I would be into psychology or into counseling. I love talking to people, and I love, you know, seeing a response and encouraging people and building people up. Other than that, I have this secret passion for being a weather chaser. I just love tornadoes and hurricanes, and I always, whenever it's especially rainy like this, I just always, you know, envision what people are doing in Kansas chasing tornadoes and stuff. It's a dorky thing, but yeah.
Well, speaking of weather, it's the night before. They're expecting a lot of rain. Have you played outdoor events before in the rain?
I've not done in the rain. I've done it in drizzle and done the tent thing. I hope that they're having a tent. I'm sure that they are. If not, then it's going to be, I'm sure, like a very UK-based, you know, festival, which will be lots of mud, lots of fun, and hopefully lots of smiles due to the music.
And the complex that they moved to is very interesting because right now they're hosting a football game with 30,000 people, and they've got a soccer pro match between 2 and 4. So the soccer game will finish and 10,000 people will leave the soccer game and walk right by the stage. So it should be an interesting little spot. Canada's pretty happening for the 150 anniversary here, so we'll see how it all works out. Is there anything special you're looking? I mean, you said upstairs finishing off a song. Is there something else that you're looking forward to playing and seeing what the crowd says?
We haven't even tried On My Own for live performances, so we're going to try that tomorrow. We also have a couple of new ones that we have been road testing for Above and Beyond, hopefully, for their 250 set, and we've gotten a lot of good responses for that. We have new continuously music. We try to bust out 2 a month usually, and so we constantly have a turnover of new material. So I've got about 4 or 5 songs, I think, that Bruce and I are kind of going to put in our lineup. The last track that we finished on is a new one with Angel, and we feel it's the strongest track we've done. It's not a 4 on the floor. It's not a typical Fatum stuff. It's a very Flume-oriented style track. It's halftime, but it's an absolutely beautiful, it's like Dead Mouse meets Flume type of thing, and we've gotten a lot of good responses from it, and it's our favorite track that we like to play live every single time. It's a perfect ender.
Awesome. And I guess just to wrap up, a little personal question to you. Most people say the travel is the worst part about the touring lifestyle. For you, what's the best part?
The best part about the touring lifestyle is meeting the fans and being able to hear stories of how our music has connected them on a personal level. When you get that story from a fan who looks you in the eyes and said, hey, this song helped me through this time, or this song enhanced this time, it makes it all worth it. You bring that back into the studio and you say, wow, I'm really touching people all across the globe, and what I have a hand in is helping people all across the globe. And when you see that type of scale and you take that into consideration on when you make music, it makes you just want to push harder and better and faster and stronger, to quote Daft Punk. But it really is, it's a phenomenal feeling. And yes, seeing the crowds jump and scream and, you know, fist bump and all of that is really good, and hearing your music really loud is a lot of fun. But when someone comes up to you and says, hey, thank you for this, I really needed that, that's just the most rewarding thing by far.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Hopefully it'll stay dry, but if it's all wet and rainy, it'll still be just as good an event. I know I've done festivals before where it's poured, and that's become the most amazing part of the whole thing. So looking forward to it. Thank you again.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.